When I decided to start my home bar, the whiskey sour was the first drink I learned how to make. I have to start this video by saying, if you go to a bar and you ask for a whiskey sour and they use a sour mix, run. I'm sure if you Google this, you'll find different ways and different amounts of all these products to use, but this is what I use and what I found to be tasty. I start by chilling my glass. I don't have any room in my freezer right now, so it's just ice cubes and water, and you just put it to the side for a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna be using a rye whiskey, and I don't know if this is true or not, but someone once told me that if you use 100 proof, it's better when you use an egg because you kind of, kill all the bacteria. I'm not sure how true that is, but I've just kind of stuck to it since then. The next main ingredient is lemon juice, and that's pretty much what makes it a sour. Next is simple syrup. I'm using a Demerara syrup. It's pretty much what I use for all whiskeys and bourbons, things like that. And lastly, an egg. I don't even have an egg. Now I have an egg. Congratulations! All right, now let's make it. First, I'm gonna start with the egg white. If I mess up, that's usually what I mess up with. Always leave the booze for last. Let's get cracking.
Today, Junior?
It's kind of gross. I'm gonna use an ounce of lemon juice. Your simple syrup is pretty much a personal preference. I like things a little bit sweet, so I'm gonna use 3/4 of an ounce. But if you like things a little bit milder, go ahead and use just half an ounce. And lastly, I'm gonna use 2 ounces of booze because go big or go home, right? And then you gotta dry shake it so you can emulsify the egg. I don't even know what that word means, but you gotta do it. And make sure to hold this tight because my first time ever shaking a drink with an egg, I didn't, and the bottom flew off and I got egg all in my pants. I was behind the bar and that was pretty embarrassing.
Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
Then you gotta shake again with ice. First one's called a dry shake. This is a wet shake. I think you can figure out why. Now that we've got our chilled glass, you just double strain right in there. This pretty much goes up to the brim. So now we just gotta let this settle, so it's a great time to kind of clean up all your stuff. And that's pretty much the whiskey sour. But there is one more thing you can do to kind of spice it up, really give it a visual appeal. And also when you bring it up to your mouth, you get some aromatics in your nose as well. That's to add just a couple drops of bitters on top. Now, while I was visiting a local bar, I saw a trick that they were using to really put the dots on. So instead of just sprinkling on, it kind of goes everywhere. This is the best way to do it. So just kind of take your bitters, put a couple drops in your shot glass or just some kind of cup to hold it. And then if you have a bar spoon, I found the best way if you have these little round bulb tips to just dip it in there and then you can just place it on the drink and it makes a dot. Then just take a toothpick with the pointed end and just kind of draw a line straight through and you give yourself some nice little hearts. And that, in my opinion, is the tastiest whiskey sour. Oh yeah. I'm a big fan of sour drinks myself. It just hits all the spots. A little bit sweet, main tartness, and the whiskey just blends in really smoothly, gives a lot of the flavor, and no burn really. I could drink these all day. Probably shouldn't though. Stay tuned for more content and feel free to follow me on Instagram where I might be posting a couple shorter, recipes and how to make things and just things that I find and drinks that I like. See ya.